Wow, I was not expecting to see that. Hey guys, welcome back to the DrCliffAuD vlog. This is vlog number 298, and today I'm going to take a look at consumer sentiment of hearing aids by looking at the MarkeTrak 25 data. But before I get into today's vlog, guys, do me a huge favor, click the like button, really helps out the channel, and if you are not yet subscribed to the channel with notifications turned on, go ahead and do that as well. It is greatly appreciated. So every couple of years, the hearing aid industry basically has a survey that tells us what you guys think about your hearing aids and your hearing care. Now, this survey has been going out since like 1989, and they've done it a number of times since then. The most recent one, I think, was in 2022. I actually have a vlog reviewing that MarkeTrak data, but here we are at the very end of 2025. This data was actually collected at the end of 2024 to give you guys an idea of this information and where it's coming from. The first thing that I'm just going to cover right here, there is a whole paper on this, and it's open access. I will link it in the description of this video, but it's called MarkeTrak 2025, Consumer Perspectives on Hearing Health in an Evolving Market. So the biggest thing with the most recent MarkeTrak data was that over-the-counter hearing aids kind of just got released at the time, or at least they became an official category of hearing aids. So that kind of threw a monkey wrench in the traditional data collection. But now they had that data collection and this new data collection. So now we're starting to get a better understanding of the over-the-counter hearing aid market. But I want to cover some of the main highlights of this particular survey. So let's go into the methodology here really quick. A couple things I've highlighted here. So MarkeTrak 2025, or MT25, is the fourth online version of this particular survey. Sample size of 16,000 households and capturing data on over 42,000 individuals. And then this sample here was comprised of 1,173 hearing aid users who had self-reported hearing loss and 1,782 non-hearing aid users, okay? First and foremost, the amount of people who are self-reporting hearing loss now is down compared to a couple of years ago. Historically, this has been around 10 to 11% of individuals who got this survey self-reported hearing loss. This particular survey, only 9.1% of individuals have reported it. Now, here's one of the big points here, which is the adoption rates of hearing aids. So in 2015, so we're talking 10 years ago now at this point, hearing aid adoption rates were 30.2% in the United States. Now they are 39.1%. So about 9% increase in hearing aid adoption here in 2025 as of the end of 2024. And you might be thinking like, well, what's leading to that increase? Well, that increase is actually not that much higher than 2022, right before we saw the release of over-the-counter hearing aids. It's only up by about what? So in 2022, it was 38.4%. So we're not even a full percentage point higher in hearing aid adoption rates. So it doesn't look like over-the-counter hearing aids are contributing a whole lot to this increase in hearing aid adoption. Now, I will say that with all devices, we're talking earbuds that have amplification, over-the-counter hearing aids, prescription hearing aids, cochlear implants, probably even auditory brainstem implants. When you consider all devices that are available to individuals, adoption rates are actually up from 2022, going from 46.9% up to 51.3%. So what is that, about a 4.5% increase in hearing aid adoption, or rather increase in overall hearing treatment adoption over the course of the past 3 years at this point. It does say here that for the over-the-counter hearing aid category accounts for approximately 6% and contributes an incremental 4% to the overall adoption rate. So it does look like it is moving the needle here a little bit, which is actually pretty nice. I'll cover some more information about who's actually using over-the-counter hearing aids here in just a minute. So there are some nice graphs here that I will overlay as I go through all of this information, but you can see the self-reported hearing difficulty rate changes here from MarkeTrak 2015 to MarkeTrak 2025. We have the overall adoption rates that I just reviewed with you here. We have the specific adoption rates, meaning are individuals going with traditional hearing aids? Are they going with over-the-counter hearing aids? Are they going with earbuds with a hearing aid feature? So some interesting data there. But here's what I wanted to get to, which is the over-the-counter hearing hearing aids, first and foremost, this is a very small sample size of these over-the-counter hearing aid users. To put it in some perspective for you, of the individuals who had any hearing aids, we're looking at 2,172 individuals. For traditional hearing aids specifically, we had 1,851 individuals, and for over-the-counter hearing aids, we had 25 individuals. But the interesting thing here with this data is that the majority of these individuals who purchased over-the-counter hearing aids actually went somewhere to get those hearing aids, whether they went to a hearing care professional's office, whether they went to a like a pharmacy or something like that inside of a store, or whether they went to an actual retailer location. Only 11% of individuals purchased their over-the-counter hearing aids online, which I was really surprised by. I mean, when you look at it, you go online and you start doing searches for hearing aids, you get bombarded by over-the-counter hearing aid ads, but people don't seem to be compelled to actually order from the online companies. They seem to be more compelled to go into a physical location. I would speculate that that is largely due to the fact that if you purchase these hearing aids online, you're not confident that you're actually going to get a refund if you do not like the performance of those devices. So it seems like a lot of people are going in to a physical location where they know that they can get a refund if they take the devices back there. On top of that, it looks like over-the-counter hearing aids might be a little bit more of an impulse buy rather than someone actually going online and doing a thought-out process of, okay, I need to treat my hearing loss, let me go ahead and go online and order them. Instead, they end up bumping into these devices either in a hearing care professional's office. So like if they went in with the intention of getting prescription hearing aids, they found out that they only have a mild level hearing loss and like, well, I'm not going to get prescription hearing aids, but I want something. So they end up going with an over-the-counter hearing aid because something's better than nothing. Or they're in the pharmacy anyway and they see this display, this nice display of devices and like, oh, look at that, $500, I can get a pair of over-the-counter hearing aids, and they purchase them that way. You also have to consider that sometimes family members are in a store and they see hearing aids and are like, oh, you know, grandpa could use these hearing aids, let's go ahead and get them for grandpa. But I'm just really shocked to see that online purchasing of over-the-counter hearing aids is very, very small. Granted, it is a very small sample size, like I mentioned before. Here's the other interesting thing about over-the-counter hearing aids that they gleaned from this survey is that even though no professional assistance is required for over-the-counter hearing aids, many over-the-counter hearing aid owners report having received some guidance or assistance along the way. And, you know, I've reviewed a lot of these over-the-counter hearing aids, and just thinking of it from a perspective of the average individual who's going to be purchasing over-the-counter devices, there's a lot of nuances to them to where it might not make a whole lot of sense. When I'm reviewing these hearing aids, I'm like, man, there's going to be some people out there who purchase these who have no freaking clue how to set these devices up. So it's not really a surprise that some professional assistance might be needed. I also thought it was very interesting to see the most important situations for people to hear well in. So for individuals who have traditional hearing aids, meaning prescription hearing aids, the number one most important thing to them is hearing conversations in noise at 58%. The second to that was at home with family members, which was 56%, and then conversations in small groups was 42%, and everything else that they surveyed was much lower, 11% or lower. Now, on the other end of that, for over-the-counter hearing aids, it's very interesting because conversations and noise was not the number one for individuals who have over-the-counter hearing aids. Number one was actually hearing at home with family members. Now, this is really important to know and actually really good to know because over-the-counter hearing aids really do not perform that well in background noise based on all of my testing. If you go to HearAdvisor and look up these different objective tests on over-the-counter hearing aids, pretty much all of them perform like garbage in background noise. That's largely due to the fact that none of them can be precisely programmed to your hearing loss prescription, even if a hearing care professional is doing it. Like, I've tried to match prescriptive targets with so many over-the-counter hearing aids at this point, and none of them even come close to what a prescription hearing aid can do. And what does that do? Well, it means that you're going to perform worse in a background noise situation. But on the other hand, if you have mild to moderate hearing loss and your goal is to just hear better in a quiet home with friends and family members, then chances are you are going to get at least some benefit out of an over-the-counter hearing aid, even if it's not programmed perfectly to your hearing loss prescription. And then conversations in small groups, I'm assuming that's without noise in the background. Small groups is very similar to at home with family members, very similar listening situation. Something else that they identified here is that individuals are starting to understand what brands they're wearing at this point. So back in MarkeTrak 2022, only about 30% of hearing aid owners reported knowing which brand of hearing aids that they were using. and here in MarkeTrak 2025, it increased up to 47%. Now, keep in mind, this is in line with historical averages. I don't know what was going on in 2022. Maybe COVID kind of threw people off, or maybe COVID brain happened and people just completely forgot what brand of hearing aids that they were wearing. But it's interesting to see that that has increased again. I should mention that individuals who are getting traditional hearing aids, a lot of them might have a certain hearing aid brand in mind, but then when they go see a hearing care professional, they end up switching to different brands that they might not have considered, because that hearing care professional likely has identified that even though you think that one particular hearing aid's right for you, it's actually better to get a different hearing aid based on your hearing loss or what your wants and needs are. On the other hand, a lot more of over-the-counter hearing aid users, they end up purchasing the devices that they research themselves, so it's not really a huge surprise there. In terms of quality of life, I should mention this here. An impressive 90% of all hearing aid owners report that their devices improve their quality of life regularly or occasionally. So hearing aids are definitely having an improvement on people's quality of life. Satisfaction with the hearing aids themselves remains high, with 83% of all owners being satisfied, and those who receive professional support expressing higher rates of satisfaction than those who do not. That 83%, I'll have to take a look at it, because I want to say that 83% satisfaction was either exactly the same as what it was in 22, or maybe 1 or 2 percentage points higher. I want to say it was almost exactly the same. But here's the thing, hearing aids have gotten substantially better since 2022. I mean, hearing aids now with artificial intelligence, all of that stuff, we did have some AI going on back in 2022, but the idea here is that if you would think that if hearing aid technology was getting substantially better, that hearing aid satisfaction rates would get substantially better, and that is not what we're seeing here. Now, with that said, I think that probably the biggest reason why hearing aid satisfaction rates are not substantially higher than 83% is because hearing care professionals are not following comprehensive audiologic best practices. If they were, they would be maximizing the performance of these prescription hearing aids substantially better. Now, if you're looking for a hearing care professional who follows comprehensive best practices, make sure that you go to my website, hearingup.com, and find a Hearing Up Network member in your area. I have personally vetted all of the providers on my website, so if you go to one of them, you know that you're going to get the highest level of hearing care possible. All you got to do, like I said, is go to hearingup.com and find a Hearing Up Network member near you. With that said, how many times have I said that in this video? Now, they actually took a look at all the different areas that had an improvement in individuals' quality of life. So let me read some of the top ones here for you. So first one was confidence in yourself. The second one was overall ability to communicate effectively. The third one was feelings about yourself. The fourth one was social life. Then you had sense of safety, sense of independence, mental and emotional health. I mean, these are all things that are incredibly important to individuals, especially as we continue to get older. But this isn't just for older individuals. This is for younger individuals too. We're talking all the time here in the United States anyway about mental health. And hearing aids quite clearly can significantly improve your overall mental health by giving you better quality of life. Now, one thing that we need to consider here is that they actually mentioned that individuals who had professional support with their hearing aids expressed higher satisfaction rates with their hearing aids, which probably means that if individuals got over-the-counter hearing aids, or they tried to purchase prescription hearing aids online and self-program them, that their hearing aid satisfaction was actually lower, which is dragging down the level of satisfaction that individuals are receiving from professional care in this particular survey data. So you got to keep that in mind. Individuals who do not get professional care are not as happy with their hearing treatment compared to individuals who are, and I would love to see MarkeTrak actually separate out those two so I could see exactly what the hearing aid satisfaction rates are for hearing care professionals, or rather for individuals who go to hearing care professionals specifically. Now, something else that was interesting, and I'll kind of finish on this, this was the last thing that they looked at, which was hearing aid insurance coverage. So more hearing aid owners reported having coverage for their hearing aids than in the past, 63% in 2025 versus 54% in 2022. So that is a 9% increase in the amount of individuals who actually had hearing aid coverage. And that hearing aid coverage apparently comes in several different forms. So either Medicare Advantage, which uses like a managed care or a third party like True Hearing or Epic or Amplifone, one of those other ones, followed by insurance or health maintenance organizations, HMOs, and then military Department of VA. Among those with coverage, 24% reported having full coverage with no copay or deductible. Now, this is also something that could be limiting the hearing aid satisfaction rates, because we all know that when you use your insurance for hearing aids, they end up dictating the quality of care that you typically receive, which means that if you're using your insurance, yes, you're getting hearing aids, but you're not going to be getting as much benefit from those hearing aids if you go to someone who actually accepts your insurance. Now, that is not true globally. Sometimes you can get lucky and you find a hearing care professional who can do a good job, even though the insurance company doesn't reimburse them properly for all the services that they provide you. But that is rare and few and far between. You got to be very, very careful when you end up using your insurance to get hearing aids. Now, something that was not collected here that I'm aware of is that 2025 was the first year, rather going from, I think this is actually 2024 data, so right in line with this MarkeTrak study, but throughout 2024 going into 2025, it was the first time that we ever saw less hearing aids dispensed from these third-party insurance groups, right, that would often provide hearing aids for individuals on Medicare Advantage or some other coverage plans, right? So the interesting thing with that is that I think a lot more people are starting to realize that if they go through their insurance to get their hearing aids, that they're either not going to get the hearing aids that they want and or need, they're not going to be able to go to the professional that they want, and the quality of care that they receive is subpar. So I think a lot more people are saying, you know what, I'm actually going to forego my insurance and I'm going to pay privately because hearing my absolute best is really important to me. So I would be really interested to see how this continuously goes. I know that these third-party companies are kind of scrambling because they're like, why are people not wanting to get their quote-unquote free hearing aids from us or discount hearing aids from us? It's kind of crazy, right? So if you're someone who's still on the fence about getting hearing aids, the thing is that you're starting to get left behind, because as you can see, hearing aid adoption rates are continuing to go up. People are generally satisfied with their hearing aids. There's even more coverage than ever before for hearing aids, so there's really no good excuse at this point in time to not be treating your hearing loss. But it goes to show that just because something's free doesn't actually make it good. But I want to know what you think. Let me know down in the comment section what you think about this MarkeTrak data, and I'll see you in the next video.